You know what, Neil? It's kind of like the Caucasus. They came out.
And just one brief correction. That word is cosmic perspectives, not cosmetic perspectives, but maybe...
Or comic perspectives.
Or comic, yeah. We need some of both of those others as well. Yeah.
Well,
Leslie, let me just say I'm very honored.
Are you going to interview me?
No, no. I'm just honored that we all love you. So thank you for...
Well, we all love you.
Thank you.
So, well, I am beyond thrilled to be asking you about the stars and our future and the universe. The only problem is the canvas is so vast. How's a girl to begin to ask you questions? So, as a reporter, I'm going to start by asking you something in the news. Extraterrestrials. So we all know that last week there was a big story. Some former intelligence officer has reported that the military has some, what's it called, non-biological, they're not called aliens, non-human bodies taken from UFO crash sites. And they have them in a lockbox somewhere, and they're not telling us about it. And they then briefed Congress last week, and the briefing was inconclusive. So let me ask you, what are the chances that this is a serious question. I can't believe I'm asking it. What are the chances that the military has an alien stashed away in a box somewhere and they're not telling us about it? And don't laugh, comic.
I prefer to think of that in a different context. If we were visited by aliens, why did they only visit the military? I mean, you can ask very simple questions in response to this. And why is it that our best images of these visiting aliens are fuzzy? When we have 6 billion smartphones in the world, each capable of a high-resolution video or still image. And then I concluded that maybe the aliens are actually fuzzy, and they have a special affection for the US Navy. That would explain it all. But think about it, we are essentially crowdsourcing any possible alien invasion because everybody's got a camera. And not only that, at any given moment, you can run the math on this, there's about 1 million people who are airborne with a window looking out into the atmosphere. So it seems to me if a mothership arrived, it would go viral because someone would take it. Cats go viral, all right? Jumping from a chair to a couch. I'm thinking an alien encounter. So if they don't want to bring it out of the locked box, it's not helpful. It's not useful scientifically. We have to at least bring out the evidence. And by the way, they did that in Mexico. They brought out the aliens to the Mexican Congress. So that was intriguing. Yeah, they had 2 aliens. You missed that?
I did.
Oh, you missed that news cycle. Okay. So these are alien mummies that they claim they found in Peru. And after they showed them in the Mexican Congress, Peru said, "What are you doing with our alien mummies? Right? How did you get them?" So my point is that's an important first step. You present the evidence. You don't just swear that you have it in a locked box. That's not how science works. So now the next step is send samples of it to other labs so they can verify or falsify your claims. That's how science works. We do that for much lesser stories than 2 mummified alien bodies. So I remain unconvinced by it all. But my people, my astrophysicists, the cosmetologists, we've been eager to find extraterrestrial intelligence or aliens of any kind. We've been looking for decades. So don't think we were somehow shy away from such a discovery. If we find that, we're telling the world that night. And if one visits, here's the one you got to think about. if one visits and it says, take me to your leader, are you really taking it to the White House or not, okay?
Right,
I'm just saying.
Actually, right to the White House. First
no,
up.
I would rank...
Can I sum up what you've just said?
Please.
Leslie, don't be absurd.
No. So let's think about it more holistically. If there's a threat from the skies that we do not understand, I want the military to investigate it. So, yeah, what are we giving them, $700 billion a year? Put a couple of pennies of that to study stuff we don't understand, the unidentified aerial phenomenon, the UAPs. Well, who are they fooling? That's just a rebranding of UFO, all right? That's the government calls UFOs. Yes, find them, capture them, study them.
Well, you've seen those pictures.
The fuzzy pictures.
The fuzzy pictures.
Yeah. I don't know what they are.
Well, they're
but since I just said I don't know what they are, I cannot in my next sentence say, I know what they are, which is what everyone else is doing. They say, I don't know what this is. It must therefore be intelligent aliens visiting from out. You just said you don't know what you're looking at. You cannot in the next sentence declare that you know what it is. And as a scientist, you must learn to love the questions themselves, because you don't always have answers at all times to all the mysteries you confront. And if I were to rank the causes of these phenomena, aliens would be pretty low on the list, because I'm thinking we would have captured them by now outside of the military, because we are everywhere and the military isn't.
You mean captured on camera in some way?
Or
actually captured?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well,
grab an alien. If y'all, I'll give you my phone. Call me. We'll talk.
You and I talked about this the other day, and you said, look, there are 6 billion high-res phones now. How come we're not hearing about alien abductions anymore the way we used to?
Right. In the 70s, 60s, 70s, early 80s, alien abduction stories were common, where people would get brought onto this craft, get poked and prodded, their gonads would get whatever, and this would come out during hypnosis or other forms of, or they would just tell it. And we have to remember how imaginative the human mind is. Just think of how many novels are written in a year, and ask yourself, what is the capacity of someone to fantasize about this? Now, you don't want to discount someone's feelings or emotional encounter that they might have had, but I just need better evidence than your eyewitness testimony.
Like
eyewitness testimony, as high as that is in the court of law, where they say, I need a witness. In the court of science, it's like, no, show me the data. Show me, and so I need better data than your eyewitness testimony. So that would be a camera. So today, if an alien starts walking toward you, you pull out the camera and stream it, okay? That has yet to happen. And by the way, the alien abduction stories have gone basically to zero in modern times relative to back then.
Because of the phones.
The phones.
Right. Well, there's another recent story that was in the New York Times just the other day about space debris.
Ooh, yeah.
That's circling around up there, partly from rocket emissions, but also from all these satellites that are now up there to help us communicate.
Well, many of them are dead. In fact, most satellites that were launched to help us that are in orbit are dead. They're just debris. We don't call those debris because they're macroscopic large objects, but the amount of debris is staggering, and it poses risks to astronauts that are not only going into orbit, but might want to pass through the atmosphere towards other destinations, which NASA has in mind with their Artemis project. And so, as the follow-on to Apollo, and NASA's being woke early, because Artemis is Apollo's twin sister.
In life, you mean, in real life back then.
Well, in real mythology life,
yeah,
yes.
Yeah, real life. That's what that means.
So, but anyhow, if you look at some illustrations of how much debris there is, I look at that and I say, That's why the aliens never visit.
They can't get through.
You're crazy. What are you doing here?
Well, the New York Times says, alive or dead, there are 9,000 satellites circling up there. More than half are Elon Musk's or from Elon Musk's company, Starlink. But what's happening in terms of your profession is that when you try to look through a telescope, it's like looking through a windshield filled with bugs, you know, splattered bugs.
Yeah, they just cross in front of your field of view. And so it's kind of interesting at first. It's novel. Oh my gosh, I'm observing an orbiting satellite. But then they become annoying and basically evil at some level, because we have a telescope now just coming online. It's called the Vera Rubin telescope, named after a recently deceased, well, 6 years ago or so, a member of my community who was a pioneer in the study of dark matter. And this telescope is basically going to take movies of the entire night sky every night. And you might say, well, what's the point of that? Think about it. Before that, I would go to the telescope, take a picture. Suppose that object changed an hour after I took that picture. I wouldn't know. So our understanding of cosmic phenomenon for the last century has been brought to you by still pictures. If you take a movie, you can track things like potentially hazardous asteroids. By the way, the asteroid that has my name on it is not headed towards Earth. I verified that before I agreed, because you don't want that to be the one that takes out civilization. Asteroid Tyson coming in.
Can I pause for 1 minute? Why haven't telescopes been able to take motion pictures before?
Well, it's not that they haven't been able to, it's that they weren't designed to.
But why not? It makes so much sense that you would want to have a record.
Well, for most things, we presume they wouldn't be changing while you're observing them. Stars live billions of years, and you're observing them for one night. So if I observed you for 10 minutes, I presume you're not going to change relative
to an alien.
To your life expectancy. So for most things, we don't expect them to change. That's true. Over the time you're observing them. But for the rest of the phenomenon out there that you might not be looking at, they go bump in the night, and you didn't know to be there when they would go bump in the night. But a full movie of the entire sky at all times will do that, because it's an unbiased view of the sky. It's not targeting one place or another. Here's the problem. It's going to be discovering asteroids that cross Earth's orbit. We call them near-Earth asteroids. 100% of them will ultimately collide with Earth. We want to know where those are. They're crossing the field of view. But if that's crossing the field of view, and I got an Elon Musk satellite crossing the field of view, that creates a noise level, a visual noise level, that contaminates the data you're actually after. And I don't want to miss a satellite that could take us out. So this confuses the data, the more of these satellites that you put up there.
So what's being done to mitigate this?
There's an organization, I'll remember their name in a moment, they've tasked themselves with reducing this kind of sky pollution. Not air pollution, sky pollution.
Taking the satellites down?
Yes, so the dead satellites, you want satellites to have a little bit of fuel so that when they die, they can deorbit. So that takes out the dead satellites. Then, for the satellites that are active, you want them to be coated in a very absorptive paint so that they're not reflecting sunlight back to you, contaminating your picture. So there are clever ways around this without disrupting the progress of communications and because that's the point of the Starlink satellites.
But how big a problem is it for astronomers right now? If it's all like a windshield with bugs on it, it's disrupting the field already.
Yeah, so what we do is we take multiple, it's sort of like taking a movie, we take multiple images and we find one with a streak in it, we throw that out, but keep the rest. So that means we have to be a little more vigilant. But we have AI doing that now, so it's not so laborious as it once was.
So
we're totally tight with AI, by the way. AI started making, you didn't ask this, but we're on it right now. AI started making recent headlines only when people discovered that it could write your term paper. And then the liberal arts folks, who I think perceive themselves as immune or untouchable from the advance of computing technology, it landed in their lap and they pooped their pants. I have no other way to account for the reaction that I saw. And no one is thinking, why don't we just let AI write the stuff that you don't want to write? Like instruction manuals, like tour guides, like just let it do what it let it.
This from a scientist who's getting a lot of positive information from AI, unlike people who are going to have to face misinformation, disinformation, all the negative sides of AI.
That's right now. The AI can hallucinate, they call that. If you say, if you ask AI, tell me about the Italian scientist Umberto Francesco, who and his discoveries in electronics in the 19th century, it'll come back with an entire biography, except I just made up that name. It assumes maybe it's somebody it had not seen yet, and it gathers together information because it's trying to please the person who asked the question.
I asked a
ChatGPT
to give a biography of me, and it was all made up.
But was it good? Was it better than your?
Much better.
Yeah. I mean, you know.
No, but AI is helping your field, is what you're saying.
Oh yes, because we don't give it.
Tell us how.
They're things that involved processing information of the human mind that if you understand what that processing is with enough detail and depth, then you train an AI on it, you check it, is it doing what I was doing on this bit of data? Does it match up? Now you set it loose on the entire data set, which could be terabytes, petabytes of data that you would never in your lifetime have the time or the patience to go over. So my field has greatly benefited from it, and we've been doing it for decades.
Is your field going to have to come up with a whole new telescope that's going to be able to kind of penetrate the reflection that you're getting off these satellites, which I gather is a big problem?
Yeah, so two ways around that. One of them, we put our telescope in space. So the James Webb Space Telescope.
Oh, past all of this.
Oh, it's not only, Hubble was in orbit, low Earth orbit. So that's above some of the satellites. Others are above it, but it's not getting it's a better place than Earth's surface. The James Webb Space Telescope is 1,000,000 miles from Earth beyond the moon. So there are no satellites in its face.
This will tell you how much I am not a scientist. But when the telescope sends pictures back here, is there any interference that we have to worry about?
Yeah, there can be, and so signals are you find a communication channel, a literal channel, that is quieter compared to others, because think of the cacophony, the electromagnetic cacophony. That's a nice phrase, isn't it?
Lovely.
I have to use that sometime. Are you electromagnetically cacophonous? How's that?
Do you know what you are?
No. Well, am I cacophonous?
You are the Leonard Bernstein of science communication.
Oh, I haven't seen the movie yet, so I don't know.
But didn't you watch his programs when you were a kid?
Yes, well, yes, I did. I loved
go.
His description of the Fifth Symphony was wonderful.
But you explain science better than anybody, so that's...
Oh, just because science is fun, and it's hilarious. So I'm just celebrating all the low-hanging fruit of the universe and sharing it with whoever will bite it with me.
Well, we're all willing to bite tonight. So you brought up Artemis.
Yes.
Our new mission to the moon.
Yes.
This is an astonishment to me. We have not been to the moon in 50 years. 50 years.
It's worse than that. We have not left low Earth orbit in 50 years.
Well, how come we could do this 50 years ago? They just delayed Artemis again till 2025. How come we used to be able to send rockets up there and we can't anymore? What is happening?
Because we had a flame under our... We were motivated. We think of ourselves as pioneers in space.
Yeah.
But that's not really how it went down. Okay, Russia launched the first satellite, named Sputnik. Thank you. Russia launched the first mammal in space, Laika the dog. Russia launched the first human in space, Yuri Gagarin. Russia launched the first woman. Russia launched the first black person, who was a Cuban national. Remember, Cuba was with them, not us. Russia invented the rocket equation more than 100 years ago. Russia did all this, and we said, how can we do something to show? So we said, let's go to the moon. And they were going to and so we went to the moon before them, and we said, we win.
And that was it.
But you have to consider that we were reactive, not proactive, to Russia's overtures. And then we got to the moon, and we learned Russia's no longer has the moon on its sights. And so 3 years after we first landed on the moon, we stopped going to the moon. From 1968, December, Apollo 8 went to the moon, through Apollo 17 in 1972. So that's basically 3 years. Russia, we look over the fence, Russia's not going to the moon, we're done. We had Apollo 18 ready to fly. It's now for museum parts on display. The flame was no longer under our buttocks. And so decades go by. Is anyone else going to the moon? Is there a geopolitical threat? No. If you thought we went to the moon because we're Americans and we're explorers and it's in our DNA, you were badly mistaken. There were geopolitical forces far greater than any urge to explore that got us there. And once you understand that, you could look at the predictions people were making and laugh at them. We're on the moon in 1969. Everybody was saying, at this rate, we'll be on Mars with colonies by 1985.
You know they're saying the same thing now.
That's what I'm saying. I'm just trying to be honest. I read history, and I know where the forces are that make things happen. So why are we going back to the moon? Oh, it feels like it's the right time. Sure, why not? 50 years. Part the curtains. China says they're going back to the moon. And when China says they're going to do something in space, they do it. We didn't invite them to the space station, citing human rights violations. Okay, will you allow me one conspiracy theory?
Delicious.
You allow me one?
You get one.
You ready? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
We had people who wanted to go back in space, but we needed an adversary. And we knew at the rate China's economy was growing, that if we don't invite them on the space station, they'll build their own damn space program. And it's exactly what they did. And within years of that, 10 years of that, they sent their first taikonaut into orbit, plans to build a space station, they're landing craft around the solar system, and now they're talking about sending astronauts to the moon. And all of a sudden, here in the United States, we say, I think we should go back to the moon. Bada bing! We now have the Artemis program. That's my conspiracy theory. All right?
I think we're all going to subscribe to it right now.
So once again, it's a geopolitical force operating on our ambitions. We are being reactive rather than proactive. I said this on CNN, by the way. Said exactly that. Sorry, it wasn't on 60 Minutes, you all know.
I'm sorry, too.
Yeah, sorry. I said that the next day, Marco Rubio name-checked me on social media, having seen that bit. And then he called me a shill for China.
Oh.
I had to look up shill. What is shill? That's it. So she was like, so then I thought about it and I said, I was going to reply, but you have to be very careful with social media. It's a cesspool. So I said, I'm going to leave this one alone. But I thought about it. The reply I didn't send. I have a forbidden Twitter file on my computer. Tweets I've never sent, okay? Because I thought better of it. I was going to say, yep, black man from the Bronx is ideal spy material for China. Yep, that's exactly who you want to recruit.
But you know, while you're talking, I'm thinking of what we told ourselves about our pioneering spirit.
Yeah, it was a lie. A lie is harsh. It was rose-colored glasses that made us feel very good about what was happening. Because if we told ourselves why we were actually doing it. By the way, 6 missions landed on the moon. 12 astronauts walked. How many of them were scientists? 1 was a scientist, and that was on the last mission to the moon. Further evidence that it was not really about exploration. Don't get me wrong, we brought back rocks. And,
You know, almost everything you've said is stunning me. I'm not kidding. I don't know all of this.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's...
I'm about to ask you why we haven't gone to the moon in terms of technology.
Oh, no!
Clearly no.
Well, sorry. Once we mothballed the Saturn V, we lost all of that engineering acumen. And so if in 1980 you said, let's go back to the moon in 5 years or 6 years, when Kennedy said, put a man on the moon, return him safely to Earth before the decade is out, if you made that same declaration in 1982, there's no way we would get it by 1990. Everything had been mothballed, the budgets wouldn't have been aligned, and in fact, Bush Sr. Let me get the years, who was president in 1989?
He was, yeah.
Yeah. Man, you got...
Well, because I was...
I had to like calculate that. And you were like there, okay.
Don't ask.
So Bush Sr., on July 20th, 1989, the 20th anniversary of the moon landing, gives a speech on the steps of the Air and Space Museum to put colonies on Mars. And he mentioned Columbus, and he met back when Columbus was okay.
No.
Okay? You know what I'm talking about. Right. So back when it was like okay to mention Columbus publicly and not get canceled for it, he gave all of the... Now you can say, well, he didn't have the charisma of Kennedy, and I'm saying it had nothing to do with charisma. That plan was DOA. And because they priced it out, it would cost about $1 trillion or so. Well, what was NASA's budget? In those dollars, it would take, 30 years or so. So what? You can do that.
And no competition at that point.
Well, it was worse than that. It was worse than no competition. Wait a minute. 1989. Why do I remember that year? Oh, peace broke out in Europe in 1989. Okay? The wall came down.
Right.
Soviet Union was collapsing. Oh my God. Gone is the adversary. Gone is the flow of money to hairy, audacious science projects.
And when we finish up about the moon and Mars, because I have more questions, we're going to turn to the subject of war. And when we talk about war, it's almost as if it's innate. We can't help ourselves. So look at you. We're going to have competition. We need it. The human being needs to have that competition for a lot of things.
Yeah, there's a Dutch polymath from 4 centuries ago, Christian Huygens, who wrote an interesting book. It's called Cosmotheros. That's not what's important. There's a part of the book where he opines on human ingenuity and he says, look at how much foresight God had to put evil people on the earth so that good people can be inventive on ways of destroying evil, and by the good that they invent, therefore advance civilization. He had it all figured out.
It also makes the good people feel good about themselves.
Make good people feel good about themselves.
And the countries feel good about
Yes.
ourselves. But do talk to us for a minute about the technology it's taking to get a rocket to go up into space. And you know, the first Artemis mission is not even to land on the moon. It's just to circle the moon.
Right. So here's what's interesting. Just another thing they don't really talk about.
Well, tell us.
We all saw the movie or read the book, The Right Stuff, right? And you got the Mercury 7 astronauts, and they're put through the ringer and centrifuge and everything. There were a lot of unknowns about space, so you wanted to make sure you could survive this. But there are many fewer unknowns today, all right? Mm-hmm. Okay. That's why we could launch William Shatner, a 90-year-old man, up, all right? Was he the right stuff? I spoke to him about it after they put him up into the thing, and he said the hardest part was ascending the gantry to get into the capsule, okay? And he was glad there was a landing there so that he can pause and wave when he was really just catching his breath. And he says, God, please don't give me a heart attack before I even have the chance to fly in this spacecraft. So we're so good at space that Artemis 1 was an entire space mission to the moon. It went to the moon with a space capsule to the moon, orbited the moon, and came back, and nobody was on board. Nobody had to push a button because we know what we're doing, okay? And so the crew is, yes, they all have talent, and they're smart, and they could take control if they had to.
And they're scientists.
They're among them, yes, okay? Finally, yes. Oh, by the way, they're going to the moon's South Pole, which is interesting. South Pole.
Water?
Yes. So here's, real fast. So the closer you are to the poles, the lower the sun is in its arc. By the way, the sun rises and sets on the moon. There is no dark side of the moon. I've been undoing this for 50 years since Pink Floyd's album from 1973, The Dark Side of the Moon. There is no dark side of the moon, all right? The moon has a 1-month day, okay? In a month, all sides of the moon receive sunlight, okay? That's how long a day lasts on the moon. However, if you're near the poles, the height of the sun doesn't get very high from sunrise to sunset, which means shadows are long. Craters have crater rims. There are some craters where the bottom of the crater never sees sunlight because the crater rim is always shadowing it. It is literally where the sun don't shine. Okay, so.
You have to be a certain age to laugh.
Okay, is that right? Okay. And so the moon has been hit by comets and asteroids, and comets are mostly water. Where does the water go after it hits? Well, if it's sunlit, it evaporates to space. But if any of that water molecule lands in this dark of the base of the crater, we call that a cold trap, and it keeps the water forever. A slow accumulation of water molecules tells us, we not only theorize this, we sent orbiting sensors that have confirmed this, that there's scads of water at the base of these craters. So if you're going to send astronauts to pitch tent, do it in the South Pole where there's water. You can drink the water, you can separate the hydrogen and oxygen, make rocket fuel. There's a lot of things you can do. So that's the next target. And yes, we're sending scientists, yes. And we will likely get there before China, yes. But do you need the astronauts to fly the thing? Kind of not, I'm saying.
Yeah.
Not that I would know what I was doing.
Joysticks from Earth.
Right, yeah, you just send it and we got it. We got this.
But what, I still...
So you can be, I visited Brandeis once, I forgot why, we were shooting something for PBS, and they had a centrifuge. And So I went in the centrifuge.
They have a centrifuge?
Yeah, they have a centrifuge there. And I went in the centrifuge, and about 15 minutes later, my lunch was on the ground. And then I realized I am not the right stuff. I'm the inadequate stuff. But nowadays, maybe the inadequate stuff can go to the moon.
I have to ask you, before we move on, aren't you excited about the Artemis mission?
Yes.
I mean, really, I'm getting into it. I think we're going to build that same kind of spirit we had when we were all involved in Apollo.
I don't think it will equal that. It would equal that if we went to Mars, because we've already been to the moon.
But Mars is just the first station. I mean, Moon is the first station. It's all about going to Mars.
Right, talk to anyone under 30, they're not thinking landing on Mars is a great achievement. They're looking, there's the Mars generation, there's a website, the Mars generation. There's no one there over 30, they want to go to Mars. Because that's the next frontier to send people. Why wouldn't they want to?
But the moon is step one of going to Mars.
It can be, but...
Oh, you're so pessimistic.
Just to be clear, let's put things in context. Take Earth as a schoolroom globe and ask, where is everything relative to the schoolroom globe? Here it is. The Bezos-Branson billionaire boys space race, where they go up and just sort of fall back to Earth. They don't go into orbit, they just go up and fall back. They went up the thickness of thickness of 2 dimes above the surface of the schoolroom globe. That's how far away from Earth they went. Elon Musk put people into orbit, that plus the Hubble telescope, that plus the International Space Station, they orbit 1 centimeter above the schoolroom globe. Oh, by the way, remember that crazy guy who jumped out of a perfectly good balloon while drinking Red Bull? Do you remember that guy? The jump from the edge of space? He was 1 dime thickness above this. So if that's it, where is the moon if Earth is this big? It's 30 feet away in the next room. That's why it took 3 days to get there. It takes 8 minutes to get to orbit, 3 days to get to the moon. Where is Mars? It's a mile away. To say the moon is a first step, technologically, sure. But you won't ever want to go to the moon and then launch from the moon and go to Mars. Just go straight to Mars.
Well, they have to practice.
Yes.
They have to practice.
Yes.
No, they do. They have to practice building
And you
things.
can go to the moon in 1 news cycle. You get there in 3 days.
But is there water?
No, think about this. Mars is 9 months. 3 months later, you're done forgot about, hey, who's going to Mars? Do I care about them?
Is there water on Mars?
Yes, there is. Tons of it. More than
Tons of water. And
yes.
so if we
Scads
get
of
there,
water.
we'll have water to drink?
You have to dig it. We think it's permafrost down.
But that's eventually drinkable? In other words, there are
water
resources.
is water. Water is so drinkable. In the International Space Station, they reprocess your pee, and you drink that.
Ooh.
And they get water, whatever
Icky.
is in your poo, and they filter that. This is water that's been around since the hills.
All right, moving on. No, I want to, because I have a lot of questions.
Oh, sorry, no, I'll go
Audience-
faster.
No.
I'll answer the questions faster. I can do that. I'm good at, I can sound
I want to
bite.
get to your book.
No obligation.
You say in the book that if only we could sort of move into space, live in space, the reason for going to war would not exist anymore. This is a fascinating chapter in this book.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us about this concept, this theory of yours.
No, by
This
the way, I
is
wrote a
serious.
whole 600 other page book on war.
Thank you.
It's called Accessory to War, The Unspoken Alliance Between Astrophysics and the Military. There's a long history.
Does this have anything to do with aliens?
I'll bring up aliens in just a moment. You're like totally digging the aliens.
Go.
Galileo, after he perfected the telescope, immediately he took it to the Doge of Venice, showed that you can identify friend or foe in the flags of ships in the harbor, and the military immediately bought like 20 of his telescopes. That was the first thing he did. Then he looked at the night sky and wrote a book about it. So So there's a strong overlap between our expertise and the expertise the military cares about. So I thought about war often, and I'm deeply concerned about it, as should we all be. The tribalistic urges that we all have to divide ourselves and exaggerate what is different rather than absorb what is similar, it's extraordinary. Oh, you were born on this other line in the sand? That's reason enough for me to harm you, possibly even kill you. You sleep with different members of your own species than I do, you're an enemy. You worship these gods instead of these gods or that god or no god, and it's not my God, I'm going to kill you for this. Think about all the reasons we've come up with to commit violence upon one another. And all I'm saying is that if you ascend Earth, sure, go to the moon. Not this, one thickness of a dime above Earth stuff. Go out where you now see Earth suspended in space with no hint that help is going to come from elsewhere to save us from ourselves. That is a cosmic perspective. And you know who had that perspective? Apollo 14 astronaut Edgar Mitchell. Because we went to the moon to explore the moon, and we looked over our shoulder and discovered Earth for the first time. Do you realize most of the environmental protection laws that were passed in this country were passed while we were on the moon? Do you know the EPA was signed into law in 1970 by a Republican president, I might add. That's how forceful this was, okay? The environmental, NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, that cares about the oceans and the atmosphere and the air you breathe, 1970. Leaded gas was banned over that period of time. The Comprehensive Clean Air Act, Clean Water Act. Earth Day was invented in 1970. You could have had it in 1960, but nobody thought of it. It could have waited until 1980. That would have been too late. The moment was, oh my gosh, Earth is right there in the sky. Here's what Edgar Mitchell said. He said, you develop an instant global consciousness, a people orientation, an intense dissatisfaction with the state of the world, and a compulsion to do something about it. From out there on the moon, international politics looks so petty. You want to grab a politician by the scruff of the neck and drag him 250,000 miles out and say, look at that, you son of a bitch.
Whoa.
My boy was feeling the cosmic perspective. The point is, when you step away, you don't see the national borders. You don't see, and I make reference to aliens, back to your favorite subject. If an alien came upon Earth and sees this one species, Homo sapiens, so they've spread all over the world. That's great. We love that. Let's look a little closer. Oh, wait a minute, they're harming them, and they're killing them, and they're riding over here, and why? Oh, because their skin color is differently reflective of sunlight than their skin color. Or they're worshiping, and they will learn all of this about us, and they'll rush back home and report that there's no sign of intelligent life on Earth.
I want to ask you how badly you want to go out into space. How much do you want to go to Mars?
Okay, so I don't want to just go into orbit, boldly going where hundreds have gone before. People say, you want to go to space, and they think space is these two thin dimes above. I'm an astrophysicist. To me, that is not space.
You don't want to do one of those.
No.
With you.
Send me somewhere. Moon, Mars, and beyond. Give me a streaming account, okay? And a library account, and some of my favorite food. I'm good to go.
No, forget the food. I've seen what they're thinking of. No.
Yeah.
Do the food.
I got a fast one for you. I was on a hamburger podcast, okay? It's a podcast that's just about hamburgers. And
Got it.
he wanted to do something like a hamburger that one might take to Mars. I said, I like cheeseburgers. He had a brilliant idea. So he took the burger meat and he took the cheese powder you get in Kraft mac and cheese and put that into the meat patty, mixed it in, then freeze-dried it, and put it on the shelf and been there for years, and then he cooked it, and it tasted like a bad cheeseburger, but 6 months out on the way to Mars, I'm sure I would think it's an amazing cheeseburger. That's right.
Here's my next question. We have questions from the audience. What is the most important and surprising thing that you have learned in your field, say in the last couple of years? Is that a hard one?
Yeah,
You can go back a couple of years.
Yeah, no,
What's the last?
No, I'm going to go back 70 years.
Oh, okay. That's the last time?
Yeah, no, it's the biggest thing.
Okay.
1957. A group of us, which is why no one has heard about it, because they only make movies on the lone genius. But most scientific discovery does not come from lone geniuses. So you will have most of what's really important out there, no one will ever make a movie about it. Okay, there's a set of 4 astrophysicists using recently declassified nuclear data from the war effort in 1957, deduce the origin of chemical elements in the universe as coming from stars that fused hydrogen to helium, to carbon, to nitrogen, to oxygen in their core, in the crucibles that are their core. And those stars then exploded, scattering that enrichment across the galaxy so that the next generation of stars have the ingredients that can make planets, and those planets have the ingredients that can make life. It is the discovery that we're not just poetically, but literally stardust. We are not just simply alive in the universe. The universe is alive within us. And that, to me, is the greatest gift of modern astrophysics to civilization. It borders on the spiritual. So when I go out and look up, I don't think to myself, look how small I am in space and time. Yes, that's true, but look how big you are. You're made of the ingredients, the same ingredients that made those stars. That's a sense of meaning and purpose that, for me, knows no equal. That is the cosmic result that I live with and celebrate daily.
Whoa. So you and I were charged with a theme for this discussion, which we haven't even gotten to yet, which is on inspiration. So tell us, we're coming up to the end here, so as we say, a closer, tell us where you got your original inspiration for what you do in life.
Oh, so it's about what inspired me, not what about me might inspire someone else?
You know what? You can take it anywhere you want. But I was thinking of what inspired you, actually.
Yeah, I'll answer both, okay?
Yeah.
What inspired me...
This is not 60 Minutes. You can do whatever you want.
Is it still true that 60 Minutes is the only TV program that does not have a opening musical theme?
I don't know if it's the only, but Don Hewitt didn't want to have a musical. Yeah. Any music. We don't have any, you know, we don't,
no music. It's
in
just,
the middle of our pieces, we're not allowed to use music. But
yeah, and for people under 40,
you're not
the sound you hear is what clocks used to make. Tick, 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 tick. Okay.
All right.
So...
Did you plan that?
No, I just I come preloaded, so we're good. I grew up in New York City in the Bronx, In vernacular, it's the Bronx. And my first night sky was that of the Hayden Planetarium, right across the park. And I was 9 years old. The stars dimmed, the lights dimmed, the stars came out. And I've said this before, I thought it was a hoax. There aren't that many stars. I've seen all of them from the Bronx, and that's not how many stars, this doesn't match, this is a hoax, all right? And then I would learn that, of course, that is the actual. To this day, on mountaintops, I will look up at the gorgeous night sky telescope at my side. This is so beautiful. It reminds me of the Hayden Planetarium. That's how urban a kid I am. Point is, I was enchanted by the immensity of it all and the fact that we didn't know all the answers. I was attracted to the unknowns. And you can't be a scientist unless you're comfortable in what is unknown. You can't just require answers for everything. That's not how discovery works. Most of the time, we are befuddled. And when a journalist says, scientists have to go back to the drawing board with some new result that comes out, they don't understand what actually happens every day. We live at the drawing board. We're not sitting back with our legs up on the desk, basking in our mastery of the universe. No. If you're a research scientist, you're trying to figure stuff out every day. And the immensity of the unknowns at that point, I said, I want to participate in this. And it wasn't until I was 11 where I could put a career name on it. From age 11 onward, I said I wanted to be an astrophysicist, which meant I had an answer to that annoying question adults always ask kids. Oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? If you say doctor, lawyer, oh, Aunt Matilda's a lawyer, Uncle Joey's I say astrophysicist, shut him right up. There was no. So, the universe itself inspired me. No individual, not the space program, primarily because no one who looked anything like me was involved in the space program. So it was clear that I was not in anybody's plan to go into space. But even so, I knew they were not going very far. I was already at the time thinking about galaxies and the Big Bang and the expanding universe and much beyond the limits of where NASA's spacecraft would take people. So my inspiration, just last night, I was looking up at the night sky with my telescope. And so,
wow.
What day is today? Yeah, last night, Monday night, yes.
Last night?
Yes, but Martin Luther King holiday, yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
But are you, I know the answer to this. We all know the answer to this. Do you
No, it was,
love it?
Wait, the storm had come in. It was Sunday night that I did this. Sorry.
No, but
trying to be precise.
Do you love the profession you chose today as much as you always have?
Yes. Oh, there's no.
Do you know how lucky you are?
I did not know how lucky I was until I got to college, and I said, "What do you major in?" They said, "Oh, I don't know." How could you not know?
Right.
I've known like my whole life. How would you not know? And I said, "What do you do?" They asked me. I said astrophysics, and they said, "Oh, is that just early in the catalog, alphabetically?" I said, "No." So I was able to align decisions of my entire life in the interest of this goal, and so no, there was no teacher. People ask me what teacher inspired? None. I'll tell you why. In school. By the way, I had a telescope. I was using it I walked dogs for a living, 50 cents per dog per walk, lived in a big apartment building. That money adds up fast. I bought cameras, telescope, I built a dark room back when making photos required a dark room. And I was doing all of this before I got out of middle school, okay?
Wow.
But none of that was happening in the class. So my grades were like B's in school. Teachers equate A's with excellence. And don't look to anything else about you to make that judgment. So had you asked any of my teachers my entire life, at the time, none of them would have said, "See that guy Tyson? Watch him, he'll go far.
But what about...
None of them would have said that. None of them.
But what about your parents?
So,
Yeah?
okay.
Come on.
My parents, there's my brother, my sister, and me, siblings. My parents would support our interests, but they did not come out in front of them. They didn't buy me the chemistry set hoping I'll be interested in science. No. You know what they did? Because we were New Yorkers, they took us to the various cultural institutions in the city. We visited the aquarium, the art museums, the opera, Broadway musicals, Broadway plays. We went to sporting events. We saw adults who were experts artistically, athletically, in fields that were not your traditional fields. That exposure, once we visited the Hayden Planetarium, I was hooked. When my brother visited the art museum, he was hooked. He went on to the High School of Music and Art. He's an artist now up at Saratoga Springs. My sister, she's a sellout. She's a sellout.
What does she do?
She's a corporate executive.
Oh,
She's
no.
It's so sad. It's a sad thing. But wait, but my point is, my inspiration was a built-in love of the field. And I was not getting the inspiration from adults who were in charge of my education. It had to be self-generated. And my parents were supportive, but like I said, they were not effusive, all right? The two worst things that can happen to you, people tell you you're great when you're not, or people tell you you're not great when you are, okay? Both of those are bad. What you want is an accurate assessment of where you fit in the spectrum of talents exhibited in that subject. And if that's an honest understanding, you can say, I need to do better. Or this is really good. I expect things to come my way, and if they don't, then you could say, well, am I female? Am I dark skinned? And there's some kind of discrimination. But if you're at the bottom of this and you're not getting your opportunity, you have not earned the right to declare any form of discrimination at all. And so I spent my whole life calibrating where I am among my peers. Once you know that, then you can make decisions in the interest of your career path that are informed rather than delusional. So this is how I ran my life. Okay, so now, if there's any way something in my life can inspire someone else, I can tell you that if you do what you love, even if at the moment you're not good at it, you will probably end up being better at it than anything else you choose to do in life. Because you'll do it like on your spare time. You'll say, why am I on vacation? I want to be back doing this hobby that I have, or this thing, I want to be reading these books or studying. Because that's what's bringing me joy, not laying on a beach doing nothing. So it changes everything about your life's priorities. And then I thought to myself, suppose everyone in the world was employed doing what they love.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, my gosh.
That's a world we can only dream of.
When I said you're a lucky person, what I meant was you found it. A lot of people just never find it.
Right.
And that's the sadness.
Or they think the accumulation of money is the goal, and then you realize there's no end to that, so then you're never actually happy, because you can always make more money. And it's just like, we're in New York, so there are a lot of money people here. So yeah, there's a lot of sort of career thinking that we don't go through or don't have. Does that happen in school? Not really. Do we talk about careers in high school? No. That doesn't really happen.
They talk about 10,000 hours to get really good at what you've put in 100,000
I've put in billions of hours. Yeah, I've thought about this 10,000 hour thing, and I know there's been some dispute about that, but the idea is meaningful, that
It is.
you do something so often that it becomes second nature to you. Being good at it becomes second nature. And
It's practice makes perfect, you
Right.
know, it's that thing.
And can I just give an example? We don't have time for this example, but I'll give it anyway. I had a cameo on Stargate Atlantis. Okay?
You did?
Yeah, if you watch it, you'll realize
I'm jealous.
that I really can't act, okay? And one of the actors who plays a medical doctor, we were between scenes and she was sitting about this distance. And I thought, I'm an astrophysicist, let me tell her about the latest Hubble photos, right? You know, she's playing a scientist on the show. And so I say, oh, you know, do you see the latest Hubble? It's this, and it's an exploding star. She said, oh, no. And I could not get her excited about the universe. And I'm thinking, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with her? How come you can't? So then I thought, well, let me put it back to her. And I said, oh, so how long have you been an actor? And she said, well, it depends on how you start the clock. But when she was 18 months, it was like, okay, she was a baby actor, and whatever you call them, right? And so her whole life has done this. And so here I am passing judgment on her absence of curiosity, but when we filmed that scene, and she was asked to redo the scene because there's an old love interest that shows up, and they were in love, but then she remembers he did bad things, but she still has an emotion, but not really. She was told to have all that mixture of emotions. Damn, that came out exactly that way. The complete mixture of all of these unresolved emotions was in her face and was in her body language, and I said, oh my gosh. This is somebody who's put in the 10,000 hours.
Yeah, and she loves what she does. You know, they're going to be really mad at me when I say time is up.
Okay, no, okay. Go. You got.
No, time is up.
Oh.
So I want you all to know I could sit here forever.
You can ask one, how about one question? Just pull out, close your eyes, pull one out. Pull one question out.
Okay.
No, from the cards that people sent.
Oh, it's from the cards?
Yeah.
Not mine?
Close your eyes, pull one out.
What is the next stage in our evolution that will allow us to thrive on this planet? Ooh, good question.
So, I love that.
Yeah.
So there are two things happening here. Our power over nature is growing, okay? Ever since we've had technology, we have wielded nature to our needs, all right? Our power over our own human genome is ascendant. So it might be that if you say, I want to be able to survive this thing that's happening on Earth, let me alter my genes, maybe we have enough power of geoengineering to just change the Earth to our whim, to our will, all right? So both of these can happen. The control over the genome has deep ethical, moral challenges to it, okay? If you can control what your unborn child is like, is this the next wave of eugenics, right? Is this, if you want to say, well, I want a person who's this height and who has a propensity for the piano and who's whatever, and then you are trying to control the outcome of someone yet to be born. And you want them to be without disease and everything. I get that. But think about it. Some of the most interesting people in the world are interesting because of some peculiarity in their life. They overcome cancer. They overcame what we'd otherwise call a disability. They're neurodiverse in some way. They overcome it and they achieve. Not in spite of it, possibly because of it. So who are we to predetermine who and what the unborn is like when so much of what we celebrate it is the diversity of what's out there? It's what you do with the deck of cards handed to you in your life. That's where the ingenuity and inventiveness comes from, for who and what we are as a species.
You know, if I was asked that question, I would have taken it to how much of us is going to be a computer. How much of us is going to be a robot?
Yeah, so I think we will resist. In that book, in the last pages, I make predictions about the future because I make fun of all the predictions people made before that got wrong. They got wrong. So I have to make myself susceptible for the next generation to make fun of me. There's this urge to put chips in our head.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, I can pull out my iPhone and get any information I want in seconds. Do I really need it in microseconds plugged into my head? I mean, without you cutting me open, I can get that same information. They're talking about connecting your brain to the internet. I'm already connected to the internet. It's in my hand. I'm good with that, okay? So back up. So, no, I think we'll resist that urge. And I think we will stay biological.
I'll make a bet.
We'll replace our joints and things, as we already do, but the mind, I'm happy to bet you.
Yeah, but our hearts, all the organs that get cancer, they're all going to be metal.
No, we manipulate your genome so you don't get cancer. That's my point.
Oh, so we still have a liver.
Is that what you're thinking of? Somehow I did not expect that phrase to come out of your mouth. You really want your liver, okay?
Wouldn't you love to have the lights come up so we can see them?
Yeah, sure. I'd love that.
I'd love to see you. Oh, there you go.
There we go.
Oh, beautiful. Ooh, look how many. Wow. They're all good looking. Did you see that? So thank you all for coming out. Here's my friend. And thank you. I could sit here all night here listening to you.
Oh, well, it's just the universe.
The universe gushing out.
Yeah, I used to think that I was biased in my love of the universe. And there are people who really don't care, but that's not the majority. I don't make you put a headline that we just discovered a black hole, or Pluto got demoted, or there's a beautiful James Webb Space Telescope. You do that as a journalist all on your own. And then I'm called in to comment on that. So cosmic discoveries have been on the world's headlines ever since we've had telescopes. And so I think there's something deeply innate about our urge to look up and our urge to wonder what our place is in the universe. And it is a privilege that I get to make that my profession and do what Carl Sagan said, that when you're in love, you want to tell the world. So to share these discoveries with the world as we are doing this evening. Thank you.
You're a beautiful person. You are a beautiful person.